Hey guys, it's Maryann here, and welcome to my live stream posture therapy exercises for low back pain, 60 minutes. Before we get started, here's some quick ground rules. Just keep in mind the information contained in this video is really not, it's really for informational purposes only, and it's not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice. So please always seek the advice of your doctor or physician before starting a new healthcare regimen, and don't disregard your doctor's advice because of anything that you've seen in this video. Now today, as I take you through these exercises, if there's a movement or an exercise that causes you pain or discomfort, please just skip that exercise and go on to the next one. The format for today's video is 60 minutes, and I am going to be taking you through the full guided sets and reps for today's routine. So what that means is that you get to just relax, listen to my voice, glance at the screen to see how you're supposed to be set up, and really just follow along. So the equipment that you're going to need for today is pretty minimal. You're going to need a large block if you happen to have one. If you don't have a big block like this, a chair will be just fine. A small foam block, something like this. If you don't have something like this, a pillow off of your couch would be just fine. And something heavy to prop your foot up on, but don't worry about that just yet. We're going to be doing something called supine groin stretch, which we're going to get to that about halfway through the video. So before we get started with the exercises, we're going to start off just with a quick little self-assessment. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and stand up and just pay attention to how your back is feeling. Maybe try bending over a couple times and just get a quick little self-assessment on how you're feeling. Are you stiff? Is your back sore? Today's exercises are really intended for minor aches and pains. If you are dealing with anything major in your back, please be sure to get the personal one-on-one attention that you need. So just going off of that self-assessment, maybe you feel a little bit sore, maybe you feel a little bit stiff. Let's do a quick posture evaluation. Just stand in place and glance down at your feet. So notice if your feet are turned out, maybe at 45 degrees, maybe one turns out a little bit more than the other. One of the things that we're going to be addressing in today's routine are muscle imbalances of the hip. When the muscles of the hips are too tight, they cause our feet to turn out, and this is one of the sources of lower back pain, muscle imbalances in the hips. So after we go through these exercises today, we're going to stand up, reevaluate. You're going to be able to check in, see how your back feels. Hopefully you're able to feel a little bit of relief. We should expect to see those feet pointed maybe a little bit straighter, a little bit more straight ahead. And we're also in today's routine, just in case you're curious, we are going to also be addressing muscle imbalances of the shoulders as well, which really plays into the lower back. If you have any questions about anything that we do in today's routine, please don't hesitate to post those in the comments. I may not see the comments until after the live stream, but I'll still be sure to respond. And I think that's it. Let's go ahead and jump in. So exercise number 1 is called static back. For static back, you're simply going to want to lay down on a floor and place your legs up over a block or a chair. So it's going to look just like this. And simply relax your arms on the floor with your palms up, with your arms 45 degrees to your body. I'm going to set a timer here for 5 minutes. And that is the amount of time that we're going to be here in static back. Now, one quick thing to keep in mind, in the description box below this video, I've placed links to each of these individual exercises. So if you want to learn more specifics, more details about each of these exercises that we're going to go over in today's routine, please check those links in the comment box below. And then also, if going through this entire follow-along 60-minute routine is too long for you, you can also check those links and just go through those exercises at your own pace. That's always an option as well. So going back to static back, notice if you have an arch in your lower back, or notice if your back is flat. Now I'm going to speak to both things here. If you do have an arch in your lower back, don't try to fix it. Don't try to flatten that arch down to the ground. Just relax. And what we're doing here is we're just using gravity and your own body weight to let that lower back settle to the floor, which is ultimately a sign that those lower back muscles have started to release and to relax, which is what's allowing that lower back to settle and flatten to the floor. Now, on the other hand, maybe your lower back is already flat. And all that means is that your postural imbalances are a little bit different than the person whose back is arched. So for you, if your low back is flat, you're still going to want to stay here for the 5 minutes and just let your body settle to the floor. So just again, a quick little tip on the static back. Whatever you're using, your thigh should be touching it like this, like mine is, like I'm showing you here against this block. And then also your knee joints should be at 90 degrees. So your lower leg should be parallel to the floor. So if you feel like you're having to work really hard here to prevent your legs from flopping out to the sides, that just means that your surface is a little bit too low. So you're going to want to just play around here a little bit with using some folded towels or blankets and placing those on top of your object here, and try to get yourself situated to where you can actually relax and your legs won't go anywhere. And then the arm position is again going to be 45 degrees. So you want your arms to be lower than your shoulders and palms up. Now that arm position is really important. Notice how your shoulders are starting to settle back and open up against the floor. Having those palms up is going to help facilitate that opening through your shoulders. If your neck and head feels uncomfortable at all, if you feel like you're having to strain to put your head back, your chin is lifting up, what you can do is you can take a folded towel and place that directly under your head. So that towel is going to prop your head up off of the floor just a little bit, and that's going to help your neck muscles begin to relax to where you can eventually bring your head all the way back down to meet the floor. So really feel free to customize this as much or as little as you would like. And just breathe and relax. Focus on taking full inhales and slowly exhaling. And this breathing here is going to help to facilitate the release of the muscles in the lower back. It's going to help to really facilitate your body releasing and becoming more congruent with the floor here. So even though I am taking you through a full 60-minute sequence of 10 exercises, think about this movement right here, or this position, static back, as a standalone exercise that you can do anytime. You can do this when you're experiencing discomfort and you just want to get a little bit of relief. Or you can do this daily just as a preventative measure as well. So we're almost through our 5 minutes here, but we're not going to go anywhere because our next series of exercises is going to be here in the static back position. And just notice how your body feels here. So you might notice that your lower back has started to flatten. You might notice that your hips are more even against the floor. You might notice that your shoulders are more open and back against the floor. So just make those observations. I think it's important to notice the progress that you've made here in this short amount of time. And our 5 minutes is up. We're going to start exercise number 2, static back knee pillow squeezes. So here you're going to want to grab your foam block or your pillow. If you happen to be in a gym setting, if you have a foam roller, that's going to work really well too. Just something that is about 6 inches wide that's relatively firm. I want you to go ahead and place your object between your knees, and we're going to do an exercise called static back knee pillow squeezes. So to start off, just place the object between your knees, rest your arms on the floor with your palms up, and press against your pillow or your block. Hold it for a short count of 1 and slowly release. Press, hold, and release. This is your tempo. Press, hold, and release. Continue the reps here, pressing, holding, and releasing. Now the key here is going to be to do this using your inner thigh muscles. So you don't want your stomach muscles to kick in and engage here. If you're pressing too hard, what's going to happen is your pelvis is going to rock back like this. I'll show that to you again. This motion here of the pelvis rocking back is going to happen, and we don't want that either. So relax your stomach and press with about 60% of your strength so that you're only using those inner thigh muscles to press, hold, and release. Now we are going to go through 30 reps today. By my count, I have that we're on 11, and feel free to just follow along here. And you can also modify all of these sets and reps. If an exercise feels really difficult for you, you can shorten the reps. Or if an exercise feels really good and you find that you want to do more, you can always add more reps. And this is, of course, as you come back and revisit this video, which will be available here in the future. Press, hold, and release using those inner thigh muscles. So you should feel inner thigh muscles activating here, working here, and you should feel those inner thighs equally on both sides. So as we approach our final set of 10 here, we're going to really focus on pressing evenly through both inner thighs. I notice my left thigh is a little bit stronger today, which is interesting. And maybe you notice the same thing too. Maybe you have one side that feels a little bit stronger. So our goal here is to get our hips to be more even as a result of doing this exercise. So press, hold, and release, keeping that stomach nice and relaxed. We're going to go through another 3, last 2, and 1. And relax. You should be feeling those inner thighs nice and active here. And we're going to go ahead and set that block off to the side. We're going to start our first shoulder exercise of the sequence called static back pullovers. To start this exercise, you're going to place your arms directly up above your chest and interlace your fingers. Relax your shoulders down against the floor and straighten out your elbow joints. Now pull your arms back behind your head while inhaling, and bring your arms back over your chest while exhaling. We're going to inhale as we pull back, exhale as we come forward. Our tempo here is going to be about a 3 to 5 second count. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,003. 1, 1,002, 1,003. So that's about a 3-second count here on each rep. Breathing in as we pull back, out as we come forward. We're on number 5 here, so we're just going to stop, reset, and re-straighten those elbows, settle those shoulders back into the floor. And again, we're going to pull back for 1, 1,002, 1,003. Come forward, 1, 1,002, 1,003. And we are going to go through a total of 15 reps here on the static back pullovers. Now make sure that your elbows aren't bending. When you pull back, your elbows might bend as you try to get your hands to the floor. So if that is happening, you want to just pull back before those elbows start to bend and then bring your arms back over your chest. So that's where you're going to get the most benefit, is working within that range of motion before those elbows start to bend. And go ahead and relax, reset, and you should start to feel the upper back, the shoulder area beginning to release and loosen up. We're going to start our third and final set of 5 reps here, pulling back for 1, 1,002, 1,003. Coming forward, 1, 1,002, 1,003. And again, pulling back as we inhale and exhale. Pulling back, inhaling, exhaling, nice and slow. We have 2 more reps. Inhale and exhale, and relax, and go ahead and rest your arms on the floor, and just notice how your shoulders feel. Your shoulders should be starting to come back against the floor. So you should feel more contact of the back side of your shoulder against the floor here as those shoulder joints are beginning to open up. So now we're going to transition into something called static back pullover presses. So go ahead and take your block, your pillow, your foam roller, whatever you were using for your knee pillow squeezes, and place it behind your head so that it's about a hand length away from your head. This isn't an exact science. You just want to kind of estimate it here. And once you've got that object in place, we're going to resume our pullover position here. You're going to want to bring your arms over your chest, interlace your fingers, relax your shoulders back against the floor, and straighten out your elbows. Now pull back against the block and stay in contact with the block and press down against the block using your shoulder muscles. 1, release. Press, release. We're going to 5. Press using the shoulders and the upper back. Release, press, release. Last one, press and release. Bring your arms back over your chest. What we're doing here is we're beginning to work into that upper back area. Again, settle the shoulders back against the floor, straighten out those elbows. Keep those elbows straight, pull back against your object, hold there and press, release. Press, release. We're going for 5. That was 2, press, release. 3, press, release. 4, last one, press, release. Bring your arms back over your chest. Reset, settle the shoulders back against the floor. Straighten out those elbows, and for your final set, pull back against your block, your object, whatever you're using, and press using the upper back and the shoulder muscles and release. Press and release, keeping the stomach relaxed. Press, release. 2 more, press, release. Last one. Press and release. Bring your arms back over your chest and relax your arms on your floor here with your palms up. And let's just take a deep breath into that belly. Big, deep inhale. And slowly exhale. Just let the stomach relax and just notice how your body feels here. You should feel more settled and even. So now we're done with our initial static back sequence. And we're going to transition into a sequence of movements with our feet flat on the floor. We're still going to be laying face up supine here on the floor. So go ahead and move your chair, your block away from you here because you're not going to need it, at least not for now. And lay down on the floor here with your pillow or your small object nearby. You are going to need that in just a moment. We're going to start off here by getting our feet into the correct position. So you're going to want 45 degrees at your knees with your feet about 5 inches apart and slightly pigeon-toed. So if you're not sure, slide your feet to touch in the center and just spread your heels apart and then open up the balls of your feet so that your feet remain slightly pigeon-toed. And then the angle of your knee should be to where you feel pretty comfortable. So experiment just sliding your feet away a little bit, moving your feet in a little bit, and then bringing your feet right about in the center so that you feel pretty comfortable in the knees, hips, and the lower back. Relax your arms on the floor with your palms up. And this is what I'm going to call a hook lying position because this looks kind of like a hook from the side view. I guess that's how this gets its name. So we're going to start with some hook lying gluteal contractions here in this position. So for this exercise, just simply squeeze your butt muscles. Hold it for a count of 1 and then slowly release. Squeeze the butt, hold it for a count of 1 and slowly release. Again, squeeze, hold, and slowly release. Squeeze, hold, and slowly release. And you're going to continue with these gluteal contractions. I'm going to give you some tips here as we go along. Make sure that your stomach is not engaging. So what we don't want is to see this pelvic tilt as you do the contractions. Relax your stomach and try to isolate your butt muscles. Squeeze, hold, and release. If you're not sure if your butt is contracting, take your hands, place your hands right here at your butt and see if you can feel that contraction. Squeeze, hold, and release. So you should just feel some movement happening there at the butt. Once you've gotten the feel for it, you can relax your arms at your sides again. And keeping that stomach relaxed, staying relaxed through the upper back and the shoulders. We're going to continue to squeeze those glutes. Hold it for a count of 1 and release. And what we're doing here is we're strengthening and stabilizing the glutes, the muscles that stabilize the pelvis and the hips. Squeeze, hold, and release. And as we go through the contractions here, you're going to start to notice a fuller contraction here in the glutes. You might notice that your contraction is a little bit uneven, so you might notice that one side contracts a little bit more strongly than the other. And that's why we're going through 30 reps here, so that we can start to get that contraction to be a little bit more even on both sides. And we're going to go through another 5 reps here. Squeeze, hold, and release. 4, 3, 2, squeezing those butt muscles, and last 1. And relax. A little bit. Got my cat there. She wants to say hi. All right, now we're going to start with hook line knee pillow squeezes. So you're going to take your yoga block, your foam roller, whatever you're using, and go ahead and place it right between those knee joints. And check the position of your knees. You should still have 45 degrees at the knees, and your feet should be 5 inches apart and slightly pigeon-toed. Go ahead and relax your arms on the floor with your palms up, and we're going to begin pressing against the block here using our inner thigh muscles. So press into the block, hold it for a count of 1, and release. Press, hold, and release. Press, hold, and release. And we are going for 30 reps here. Hold and release. Press, hold, and release. So this is similar to that last exercise. Go ahead and continue with your presses. I'm just going to give you some quick tips here. You want to make sure that you keep your stomach muscles relaxed as you go through these knee pillow squeezes. So if you notice that your pelvis is rocking back like this when you do your presses, you're going to want to try to avoid that. Try to keep the stomach relaxed. Maybe try pressing a little bit softer. You're going to press, hold, and release. Make sure that that stomach and upper back is staying nice and relaxed. Press, hold, and release. Press, hold, and release. And continue the presses, and maybe you notice that one side feels a little bit stronger than the other. And what we're going to do here is, like I said, we're going to go through the full 30 reps, and our goal is to get both sides to become more equally engaged here as we go through these reps. So we have about 10 left. 9, 8. You want to make sure that you keep your big toe joint down on the ground. So the inner edges of your feet should be in contact with the ground. Last 3, 2, and 1. And relax. You're going to set your block off to the side. And we're going to get into an exercise called frog. So with frog, what we want to do is slide the soles of your feet together and then just let your knees fall apart. We're going to be here in frog for 2 minutes. So just relax your arms on the floor with your palms up. You're going to want your arms about 45 degrees to your body. In frog, don't press your knees down towards the floor. Just let your hips relax and let your knees open up. Also, make sure that you don't press your lower back to flatten it against the floor. Naturally, you should have an increased curve here in your lower back, and we just want to allow that to happen. If you can bring your big toe joints to touch, that's extra credit. What that's going to do is it's going to help increase the muscle engagement through the feet and the hips. But if that feels like too much effort for you, you can just relax that, and that's okay. You don't have to do that part. Focus on breathing into your belly. and just letting those hip muscles stretch. So you are going to feel a stretch here in the inner thigh. You're going to feel both a stretch and a muscle activation here in the outer thigh as well. And what this is doing for us is it's helping us continue to even out the hips, which is one of the big purposes of this exercise sequence. So just continue to breathe. If at any point this becomes too intense, feel free to come out of it. You can always work up to doing the full 2 minutes. And try to really relax your shoulders, your neck, and your upper body here. As we go through this sequence, obviously you're going to be looking at your phone or your device to watch this, but try to avoid doing things like texting or holding your device over your face like this. You want to try to set your phone somewhere, your iPad, whatever it is that you're using. Just let your arms relax. Try to just let the neck and the shoulder muscles settle back here against the floor. 3, 2, 1, and go ahead and bring those knees together. And our next exercise here is called pelvic tilts. For pelvic tilts, you're going to want to find that same hook lying position with about 45 degrees at your knees, with your feet about 5 inches wide, and your feet should be slightly pigeon-toed. Go ahead and relax your arms on the floor with your palms up, with your arms lower than your shoulders. So your arms should be 45 degrees to your body. Initiate the motion at the pelvis as you tilt forward to increase the arch in your lower back, and then use the pelvis and the hip muscles to tip the pelvis back to flatten the lower back. Again, tilting the pelvis forward to arch the lower back, and then tilting the pelvis back to flatten the lower back. And continue to move through about 10 reps here. Inhaling as you arch the pelvis or as you arch the lower back, and exhaling as you roll the pelvis back against the floor. As you go through these pelvic tilts, make sure that you're not pressing with your feet or your lower legs. And then also make sure that you're not tensing up through the mid-back in order to help arch the lower back, or in order to help flatten the lower back either. So stay relaxed through the mid to upper back, and don't push with the feet. And you're going to want to tilt forward nice and evenly on both sides, and tilt back evenly on both sides. Inhale as you tilt forward, and exhale as you tilt back. One more rep in each direction, and relax. And now we're going to get into the second part of today's sequence, which is something called supine groin stretch. So this would be a good time to just get up, reset, do a quick little stretch if you need to. We are going to be on the floor for 30 minutes for this next sequence. So for supine groin stretch, you're going to need something heavy to place your foot on. So I am using this flower pot, I guess you could call it. It's pretty heavy. And I'll show you what this should look like here. So you're just going to lay down with one foot propped up on your heavy object and your opposite leg propped up a little bit. Come here. Come here. So your opposite leg is going to be propped up on your chair or your block. And so that's a little bit meowing. She sounds like a baby crying when she meows, but she's actually okay. She's had all of her food and water this morning. She just wants to talk to us. So we're gonna settle down here in supine groin stretch. And you're just gonna wanna notice your positioning here and make sure that you're in the right alignment. So with your leg that you have up on your chair or your block, whatever you're using, you're gonna wanna just make sure that you have that knee at 90 degrees and that your leg is just right in line with your hips. So your leg's not flopping out to the side. So again, just like static back, you're gonna wanna put some, maybe some towels or some pillows underneath your leg to make sure that it's propped up at the right height. Now with your opposite leg, the one that's down on the floor, Again, you just want it propped up. Now, by propped up, what I mean by that is not elevated off the floor. So you want your leg all the way down on the floor. But you do want something on the outer edge of your foot to just prevent that foot from flopping out to the side. Now, your foot that's down on the floor, it can relax forward, okay? But again, you don't want it flopping out to the side. So just use that heavy object to prop up that foot that's down on the floor. And we're going to start 15 minutes here on this leg. And you're going to want to relax your arms on the floor with your palms up. So try to resist the temptation to skip over this exercise, okay? So I know that sounds kind of funny how I said that, but really this is a 30-minute exercise. And this is probably, out of everything that we're doing today, this is going to be the turning point here for your lower back. So if you obviously, you're tuning into this, you're most likely experiencing some pain, some discomfort in your lower back. Everything that we've done up until now has really helped us to level the hips, to put the hips and shoulders in neutral. And we've even already done some strengthening exercises where we've worked from the inside out and really helped to strengthen that improved alignment. But now that we have our hips and shoulders in a more even symmetrical position, which you're probably feeling that already as a result of what we've done, what we're going to do now is we're going to work on relaxing and passively stretching the hip flexor muscle. So you may have heard of this muscle. It's called the psoas. And what this muscle does is it flexes the hip. And when we sit, this muscle becomes very tight. And it also gets just short and weak. So that the hip flexor muscle really needs a lot of love. It needs a lot of attention. So as you're laying here in this position, what I want you to notice is if you have an arch in your lower back. Okay, so notice if you have an arch in your lower back. If you do have an arch in your lower back, that's a sign that your hip flexor muscle is very tight. And that means you need to do this. And that's why we are here for the 15 minutes. So as this 15 minutes goes by, you are going to notice your lower back beginning to settle and flatten against the floor. All you want to do is just relax with your arms on the floor with your palms up. Resist the temptation to look at your phone or to multitask with your arms and your hands, because you really do want your shoulders just to be nice and open and settled back against the floor. Breathe into your belly, and by breathing, this is going to help to facilitate the release of that hip flexor muscle. Now, I want you to try something here. It's called the thigh test. So with your left leg or with your leg that's down on the floor, I want you to tighten your thigh muscle and then relax it. And do it with me here just one more time. Tighten that thigh muscle and relax it. Now just notice if you felt that contraction closer to your knee joint or closer to your hip joint, or if you felt it more on your inner thigh or your outer thigh. So it's just a test. You don't have to squeeze and release your thigh throughout this 15 minutes. You just want to do it once or twice. Notice what you're feeling. If you couldn't quite tell what you were feeling, feel free to try it again. Just contract the thigh, hold it, and then relax. And notice where you felt it. Now, most people, when they do this thigh test, are going to feel it. You're going to feel it closer to your knee. Now, this may or may not be you. If you feel it closer to your hip, I'll get to you in just a minute. But if you are like me, if you're like most people, you're going to feel that contraction closer to your knee. And all that means is that your hip flexors and even your quads and really all of the muscles of your hips and thighs are going to need some time here to relax. After this 15-minute period of time, we're going to retest this quad contraction, and we're going to be able to feel a fuller contraction higher up towards your hip. Now, if you're one of the people that feels that contraction closer to the hip joint up here in the medial, kind of more main part of the thigh, what that means is that you're not as tight. But I would still encourage you to hold this here for the full 15 minutes, especially if this is your first time doing this. And the reason for that is because we want to keep this even on both sides. So once we're done with this side, we're going to switch and we're going to do the opposite side. And what I'm showing you here is just kind of like a general baseline, 15 minutes. And that's, for most people, that's how long it takes for the hip flexor muscle to begin to lengthen and to release. And within that 15-minute period of time, you're going to start to feel that quad contraction becoming fuller and higher up towards your hip. So as we hang out here, we just want to breathe and relax. Now, if you're one of those people, if you do not feel an arch in your lower back, I'm going to speak to that here. So if your lower back is flat, what does that tell you? What does that mean? And how should you do this exercise? So if your lower back is flat, all that means is that for you, your issue is not as much tightness in your hip. It's more that your hip flexor muscle is actually too weak. Now, there's other versions of this exercise where you actually have a towel, or you have a towel roll under your lower back and you have a towel roll under your neck. And what that does is it helps to actually encourage more of a muscle engagement through the hip flexor. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to focus on this version here with no towel rolls. And I invite you to try this still, even if you have that low back already flat to the ground, because you're still going to get benefit from doing this here. And the reason why is because your back, your shoulders, and your hips are having this time, just 15 minutes of time with your body weight and gravity, which is helping your body to become, for one, more symmetrical and more evenly aligned against the floor. One of the other big benefits of being here in this position, regardless of how your lower back is feeling, flat, not flat, really that upper back is beginning to relax and to release against the floor. And since we're here for this 15 minutes, we have about 8 minutes left here on this side. I want to just take this opportunity to speak to what we're doing here just a little bit more. And one of the big benefits of supine groin stretch, having that one leg down on the floor and the other leg up here, is something that you can think of this as hip separation. So think about when you sit, right? So you're sitting in your car, you're sitting at your desk, at work, whatever, you're sitting, right? Both sides of your hips are in flexion, right? So both sides of your hips are together and both hip joints are flexed together. So what happens, over time, our hips kind of get stuck that way. Both hips get stuck in flexion and our bodies lose the ability to do what we call hip separation. And so what this is doing is it's actually separating both hips, and the upper back is reacting to that, and maybe you're feeling that here. So I want you to stay in this position. I see that I have a comment here, and Trish Davis says, hi, this session is great. Yay, that's so good to know. I am really glad to hear that, Miss Trish Davis. And getting back into the position here. So if you're following along to these exercises, by the way, once this is done, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear if you could post to the comments. I'd love to know if this is your first time doing these exercises, or maybe you've done these exercises before. So I just would be curious to know, your familiarity level with these exercises. And then also I'd just be curious to know what you're feeling, any observations, and ultimately how you feel once this is all done at the very end. So getting back into our supine groin stretch, just checking the time. We have about 6 minutes left. Breathe and just relax here into this exercise. And this would be a good time to retest that quad. So for the quad test, you can do that really about every 5 minutes. So contract the quad and release. And you can try it again, contract and release. So maybe you're feeling a change. Maybe you're feeling that quad contraction higher up towards your hip. Or maybe you're not feeling a change. Maybe it feels the same. Either way is fine. It really is just a way for you to check in and to see how your body is coming along with this process of releasing, with your muscles releasing. So I'll just tell you what I'm noticing. When I first did that quad contraction with you here at the very beginning, I felt it more towards my knee, and this top part here didn't really feel like it was doing much at all. And now the second time that I'm doing this quad contraction, I am feeling it all the way up by my hip. So I'm noticing a change. So now we're just going to relax here for the remainder of the time. And here, as our hip flexors begin to release, you might be noticing your lower back beginning to settle, and you can feel free to shift around a little bit if you need to, just kind of get comfortable. As your body starts to release, your body is gonna, start to feel maybe a little bit fidgety, and that's okay to fidget a little bit. Do what you need to do to readjust as your body settles here in this position. Your eyesight should just be, pretty much straight up towards your ceiling. Your eyes should be just relaxed. So what that means is that, most of our days we're looking at something about 2.5 feet or maybe 2 feet in front of us, and our eye muscles are in a constant contracted state. So one of the benefits of this exercise is just letting our eyes just kind of relax as we look at something farther away from us, being the ceiling in this case. You can even close your eyes. We're really addressing the whole musculoskeletal system here, not just the hip. So by allowing those eye muscles to relax, we can start to really kind of let the whole complex of muscles of the head, the jaw, the neck, and the shoulders begin to relax here with those arms on the floor, palms up. And again, make sure that you're breathing. And just letting that lower back settle against the floor. So best times to do these exercises, it really is going to depend a lot on you and your schedule and what works best for you. With this specific sequence, you can think about breaking this up into 2 parts if you'd like. So all of these exercises are listed down in the comment box below. So when you revisit this video in the future, which I highly encourage that you do revisit these exercises, you can break this up into part 1, being everything that we did leading up to this supine groin stretch. And then you can have this as part 2. And one option is to do part 1 in the morning and then do part 2 being this at night, which this is going to help your body to relax and to be more, primed and ready ultimately for better sleep. However, if you have the time, you can string it all together. The whole thing is going to take you about 60 minutes. And if you are dealing with lower back pain, I do recommend that you do this daily and that you do it daily until your pain subsides. And then once your pain subsides, and that could really vary a lot from one person to the next. So in terms of how long that will take, it's really hard to say. But once your pain subsides, you can continue with this specific sequence to maintain your progress, to prevent that pain from coming back, which I would highly recommend that. Or you can check my channel here for some of my other follow along routines, and you can transition to doing something a little bit different, but still continue to keep up with something I do recommend daily to help prevent those muscle imbalances, which are so interrelated with our lifestyle, to help prevent those muscle imbalances from coming back. Okay, so we're nearing our 15 minutes here on this leg. So we're going to retest. We're going to do that thigh test again. Just notice where you're feeling that quad contraction compared to where you felt it there at the very beginning. And just notice any changes that you feel there. And then also just notice how your lower back is feeling in relationship to the floor. And one thing that you can try here is just a little pelvic tilt so that you can check and see if you have room for that lower back to settle a little bit more. So for the purposes of today's video, we are going to go ahead and transition to the other side. But if you feel like your lower back still hasn't settled fully onto the floor, feel free to stay here for another 5 minutes, up to 20 minutes. And then if you do stay here for longer on this side, you'll want to make sure that you just match that same amount of time on the other side. So now we're going to go ahead and switch to the other side. And I'll just show you what my foot is going to look like here. So I'm just going to have my foot propped up against my heavy object there. My foot is just relaxed. So your foot might flop forward, and that's okay. You just don't want your foot flopping out to the side. So we're going to get started here on our opposite side. 15 minutes. And breathe and just relax. So notice what you're feeling here on this opposite side. So maybe you have an arch in your lower back. Maybe it's flat. And again, whatever we're noticing, we're just going to observe it and stay here for the 15 minutes, and then we'll check in at the very end and see what we're noticing, see what we're feeling. So this might go without saying, but temperature is really important here, staying warm. Usually what I'll do is I'll cover myself in blankets, especially if it's the wintertime, if it's cold. Wearing shoes and socks really helps keep those feet warm. If your body is cold, you're not going to really be able to relax as well. So right now here in Southern California, it's the summertime, so it's nice, but wherever you are, whatever part of the world you're in, you just want to make sure that you're staying nice and warm as you're doing this exercise, which is going to really help your body to relax and to release. So let's go ahead and do our quad test here on this opposite side. So tighten the quad, hold it for just a few seconds here, and then release. Again, tighten that quad and release. Okay. And just notice what you felt here on that right side, or whatever side that you're doing. Notice if you felt that quad contraction closer to your knee, or if you felt it closer to your hip. Maybe you felt it more on the inner thigh, more on the outer thigh. And again, we're going to retest that again as we go through the 15 minutes here. And just to share what I'm feeling, I'm noticing the contraction definitely kind of more towards my knee. And I'm even just kind of feeling my knee joint itself kind of contracting. So maybe you're noticing that. Maybe you're just kind of feeling the knee joint. Maybe you're not really feeling the quad. Which for me, that makes sense, because this is my knee that tends to bother me. This is the knee that I had my ACL replaced back in college. So I have been kind of nursing this knee a little bit lately. It has been acting up a little bit. So I'm not surprised that I'm feeling this primarily in my knee joint, but I'm also looking forward to the benefits of doing this supine groin stretch, which I know from experience in the past is really going to help ultimately, my hip joint to begin to re-engage, which ultimately I know that my knee problem is more of a hip problem, which it always is. And I'm going to be interested as my 15 minutes goes along here to see if and how I feel that quad beginning to engage here a little bit more on my right side. So just let those shoulders relax, let that upper body relax against the floor. So I have been sharing about one of the major benefits of this exercise is how this lengthens the primary hip flexor. But I've also been talking a little bit more about the benefits of just being here for this amount of time, not even just for the hip flexor, but really for the whole body. And really what we're doing here is we're using the flat floor, the flat plumb surface of the floor to let our bodies unravel, become more even, and to open up. As our shoulders settle back and open up, our upper backs begin to extend, our whole spine becomes more congruent with the floor, and even both hips begin to settle more evenly on the floor. As a result of all of this, the connection here from our hip to our knee to our ankle is being reinforced, and even the position of our ankle joint has the ability to improve as a result of doing this. So there's really a whole lot going on here. So even though it may seem like a lot of time, 30 minutes, but the benefit definitely outweighs whatever cost of spending this amount of time. And the more you do this, the better this will get, or the more beneficial this will be. So if you're tuning in, earlier I was speaking to those of you who are experiencing back pain. Maybe you're not experiencing back pain. Maybe you're just doing this to improve your posture or to learn these exercises. And if that's the case, maybe you're wondering how often you should do this or how often can you do these exercises. You can really do these up to every day, as I was talking about that before. But you can also work this in once a week or 2 to 3 times a week as a way to just give your body a reminder, especially with this supine groin stretch. This doesn't have to be daily, again, especially if you're not experiencing pain. This really helps to give your body a reminder, to help remind those hip muscles of their proper position and length and tension. And once we're finished with this 15 minutes on each side, we are going to finish off with a final exercise to reset the hips and to leave the body in neutral. And you'll find out what that is shortly here once we get to that. But for now, just continue to breathe and relax. Now, maybe what you're noticing here on this side is different from what you're noticing on the other side. Now, if that's you, I'm going to speak to that here. All of us, or most of us, or I should say a lot of us, have one side of the body that's different than the other. A lot of us are asymmetrical. Our bodies are off balance. And where that shows up in a lot of us is in our hips. One hip is doing something different than the other hip when we're moving. And the one hip is in a different position than the other. So if you're here in this supine groin stretch position, and let's say you had your leg down on one side, you felt an arch on the lower back, and then the other side, you didn't feel the arch. So that could be a sign that your hips are in an asymmetrical position. And this exercise, along in combination with these other exercises that we've been doing today, can definitely really help to improve that symmetry. But if you're noticing that, just in case you were wondering, well, why am I feeling different on one side than the other? That's why. And again, the goal here as we go through both sides and the full 15 minutes on each side is to help both sides to become more equal and more symmetrical. So we're a little bit more than halfway here on this side. So this would be a good time to retest the quad test, the thigh test. So go ahead and squeeze that thigh, hold it for a count of 1, and release. Squeeze, hold, and release. And just notice what you're feeling here that might be different to what you were feeling at the very beginning. I am starting to notice a little bit more contraction higher up towards my hip, but not as much as I'd like to feel. For my body in particular, I tend to prefer something called the supine groin progressive, which involves starting with my leg up like this and then progressively working my leg down the levels. And what that does is it progressively eases the body into this position and helps to promote even more of a release through the hip. So for me, getting all the way directly into this supine groin stretch, sometimes it just takes a little while for my hip to release. So I'm just sharing all of this because for you watching, you could be noticing a number of different things. So I just hope that by sharing some of my experiences, maybe you'll notice some of the same things that I'm feeling, or maybe you're feeling something different, but you can start to kind of relate to the whole spectrum of things that you could potentially be feeling here in the supine groin stretch, and to start to become aware of some different ways to kind of target and deal with these different things that you're noticing. And of course, we always have the comments here on YouTube. So if you have a question or something that you want to ask, please feel free to post that to the comments. I'd love to hear from you. But coming back here to the supine groin stretch, just continue to breathe, relax. And again, going back to the lower back, coming back to what this video is all about, which is posture therapy exercises for low back pain. And going back to what this is doing, releasing the psoas or the hip flexor. Just to share about that a little bit, in case you didn't already know, the location of the hip flexor muscle originates in the lower back. The hip flexor muscle actually originates along the lumbar vertebra, along the vertebra that form the part of the lower back. So that hip flexor muscle actually is, stemming from that portion of the spine. And then the hip flexor muscle, which is actually a rather large muscle, crosses through the pelvis and actually inserts onto the thigh bone. So if you can visualize that, you can kind of get a visual of where that muscle is located and how it could be related to lower back pain. When that muscle is too tight or too weak, or even uneven, tighter on one side versus the other. And so by doing this supine groin stretch, this can be one of our most powerful ways to combat lower back pain because of how effectively this particular exercise begins to deal with that psoas or that hip flexor muscle. So we have about 3 minutes left here. Breathe and relax. Looking up at the ceiling, just letting those eye muscles relax, letting that neck relax, let those shoulders relax back against the floor. And you might be noticing your upper back beginning to, it's kind of hard to describe, but you might be noticing just some fidgeting, some not spasms, but just kind of some releasing through the upper back area. And what that is those muscles of the upper back that are used to being in a tense, contracted state are beginning to actually shorten again and become more, how should I say, balanced with the front half of the body. So that's one of the benefits of this exercise, is that upper back beginning to extend and come into a better position. And just a little reminder to be sure to continue to breathe. It's amazing how we forget to breathe, or how much we take just small, little, shallow breaths. So make sure that you're taking full breaths here, preferably down into your belly, so that when you breathe in, your belly rises up. And when you breathe out, your belly falls down towards the ground. This style of breathing engages the diaphragm. And because of the location of the diaphragm, this style of breathing into the belly helps to facilitate the release of the hip flexor muscle. So it helps with what we're going for here in this exercise. So as we approach our 15 minutes, let's retest that quad test here on the right side. So contract. And yay, I am definitely feeling more of a contraction here in my quad, all the way up towards my hip. I'm feeling less in my knee joint. So that's great news for me. I would be curious to hear from you guys after this video is done. What did you notice with that quad test? And if you had that your lower back at the beginning was arched, so maybe your lower back feels flatter. So just pay attention to what you're noticing there. And we're all done with the supine groin stretch. We're going to go ahead and come on up, and we're going to get into our reset here, which is called air bench. So for air bench, you're going to come up against a wall. You're going to want to walk your feet out away from the wall here so that your knee joints are out farther away from the wall. Excuse me, I should say so that your ankle joints are out farther away from the wall than your knees. And your hip joints are slightly above your knees. I want you to focus on pressing both hips back against the wall. Your feet should be parallel. Your feet should be pointed straight ahead. So I want you to focus on pressing both hips evenly against the wall and pressing your lower back flat against the wall. So here your upper body should be relaxed. Okay, so we don't have to focus on pushing our shoulders back or contracting our upper backs. Really, we want that upper body relaxed. Press into that lower back. Relax your stomach. You should be rotating your pelvis back here to get those hips and lower back flat against the wall. Now we're here for 2 minutes today. If this is your first time doing this, you might want to start with less time and work up to it. But 2 minutes is about right here. So what we should be feeling here is the quad muscles starting to wake up, starting to engage. If this bothers your knees, move your hips up the wall a little bit higher. That's going to help take the pressure off of your knees. Be sure that you're pressing through both feet, pressing mostly through the balls of the feet, but also with some pressure into the heels. And really pressing into that low back. The more you can get that low back pressure going here, the less pressure you're going to have on your knees, the more we're going to be engaging the muscles of the quads and the hips, and the better off we're going to be here all together. We have 30 seconds left. Stomach relaxed. Pressing both hips. And you want to really press here. So you're going to want to find an even surface, or a steady surface, I should say. All right, 2 minutes is up. Come on up, walk around a little bit. And we're going to just reevaluate. At the very beginning, we just evaluated our back. Let's try that again. Do some of the movements that you did at the very beginning, maybe standing, bending forward, twisting. Notice how your lower back feels. How does your range of motion feel? And just kind of walk around a little bit and reposition your feet, your body into whatever feels comfortable. Now, at the very beginning, your feet might have been turned out. My feet were turned out at the very beginning. Now my feet are pointed straight ahead. Yay, I'm excited about that. I'm curious what you're noticing as a result of doing that groin stretch. We should have those feet set in a little bit of a straighter position. And just important to notice those posture changes as we go through these exercises and how they correlate to how you're feeling. So thank you so much for joining me for the live stream posture therapy exercises for low back pain. It was really a pleasure. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you felt and how these exercises went for you. So please post those to the comments. And thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Please click that like button if you haven't already, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.